Hi everyone, my name is Toby White, and 5 years ago I was diagnosed with a form of primary bone cancer called osteosarcoma. For those that don't know, this is quite a rare form of cancer. Not many people are familiar with this form of cancer. I certainly wasn't before my diagnosis in January of 2020. I'll give you some background history as to the lead up of my diagnosis. I was generally quite fit. I was doing a lot of sports, doing a lot of sort of running on the treadmill, and it was around June, July time, possibly sort of going into August of 2019, where I started to feel quite a little bit of pain, sort of pressure just below the knee on my left leg. And over the next few weeks, this became a little bit more swollen and sore. I spent a weekend away in Paris with my then girlfriend and now wife, and we did a lot of walking, and that was very painful at times, walking to the point where the trip had not really become very enjoyable. It was very painful to walk, and we're having to rest a lot. So when we got back, I booked in with the doctor, and it was an after-hours clinic, doctor's appointment at the after-hours clinic at the local hospital in Northampton, and I was seen by a doctor after work, and they sort of prodded around, checked. I explained the symptoms. I thought it was some sort of running injury, shin splints or something like that, but obviously wasn't. But they didn't know either what it was. I explained the circumstances and how I'd sort of experienced this pain, and that walking was painful. I'd stopped the running at that point. I thought I'd best lay off that. It hurt a lot when I was running, and it was hurting a lot when I was doing a lot of walking. So I tried to ease off, stopped any sort of rigorous exercise that I was doing, and I started doing a little bit of cycling. Had a push bike, and I started cycling, and the pain eased off. First thing the doctor said on this after hours clinic was go for an X-ray. Refer you for an X-ray. So I went along, had an X-ray at the hospital, and got a letter back through the post saying to book a self-referral for consultation. But the earliest I could get that done was 2 months later. So fast forward to December 2019, a week before, I think it was a week before Christmas, or something along those lines. I went along to the hospital to see the fracture clinic consultant. First thing they wanted to do was another X-ray. Gets a bit hazy between those times. I think that might have been a week before, and then I was called back a week later, sort of a couple of frantic telephone calls, and they're like, can you come back in and see us? And I think it was about the 19th or 20th of December, something like that. It was a Monday. I went along and saw the consultant again, and they'd given me a preliminary diagnosis of osteosarcoma. At this point, they'd been in touch with Royal National Orthopaedic Hospital in London. Shared some imagery, some scans. Just me to think. I think about at that point I probably had an MRI and CT as well at Northampton General, because I would have shared those. But either way, I got a preliminary diagnosis of osteosarcoma. At that point, I didn't have any idea what it was, other than it was a form of cancer, form of bones cancer. And the consultant there at Fracture Clinic said there's a high risk of your leg bone breaking. And I was at that point I was in shock. I didn't really know what to say. They told me to use, they gave me a pair of crutches, and said, try not to load bear. I'd never broken a bone in my in my body before, so that was all very new to me. I didn't know how to use the crutches, and they looked dumbfounded at me, and yeah, they sort of gave me a quick demonstration, and said I'd hear from the hospital in London, Stanmore, to get booked in for a biopsy before the end of the year, before the end of 2019. And yeah, I went from there. I had one biopsy on New Year's Eve, I believe it was 2019. That came back inconclusive. They couldn't determine the exact grade or type of cancer. I went for another biopsy. Same again, that came back inconclusive. At which point they just fast tracked me, and I had an appointment later in January 2020. It's about the third week in January 2020, with a Mr. Durand, consultant surgeon from Royal National Orthopaedic Hospital, and yeah, the diagnosis was there were, I won't get the percentages, there was certain that there's osteosarcoma, and looking at all the scans and the imagery. And I was put on a standby list for surgery, and they said pack a bag. They took my height and weight measurements there at that consultation, and I was told to pack a bag, and I could be expected at any time in the next couple of weeks for surgery. And that surgery was to give me a replacement knee. The proximity of the tumour just below my knee meant that for them to complete limb salvage surgery successfully, they'd need to replace my knee. Replace the knee, and that's connecting to quite a large titanium rod. They took muscle from the right side of my leg as well, to facilitate the replacement knee, and for the skin to adhere to the muscle rather than the replacement knee metal directly. The success rates for that were higher, so that's what they did. And yeah, the surgery happened on the 11th of February 2020. I was then explained that I'd be in a straight brace following surgery for 6 weeks, and as soon as that sort of completed, I'd be starting the process for chemotherapy, which continued for 8 months, 8 or 9 months. So most of 2020. The chemotherapy cycles are MAP cycle, so it's made up of 3 drugs. I'll put the links or the description of that in the description of the video, and you can have a look into that in more detail, and it will explain better than I can. But essentially, it's a chemotherapy regime made up of 3 drugs. The same 3 drugs have been used, I think, since the 70s for this kind of treatment. And my treatment plan was essentially going to be 3 weeks in hospital at a time, 2 weeks home. So each week would be a different chemotherapy drug, and then 2 weeks at home, and then another regime, rinse and repeat throughout 2020. I think that was made more difficult as well due to the COVID-19 pandemic, not being able to have any visitors in the hospital wards as well. So it's quite an isolating time. I was there on my own. At that point, because I was severely vulnerable and immunocompromised, I was already isolating, essentially, not seeing any family, friends. So that made it twice as difficult to endure. Like all cancers, osteosarcoma has a better success rate if there is an early diagnosis. A lot of people are misdiagnosed. A lot of younger children and young teenagers are more susceptible to it. It's quite rare, I think, for someone my age. I was 30, not even 30 at the time of diagnosis. I turned 30 in February of 2020. Yeah, a lot of people are misdiagnosed. It's commonly they put it down to growing pains in the bones, but I've always thought it's it's important, if there is something, your body better than anyone else. So if there's been some kind of pain for more than a month that isn't normal, and you've been taking paracetamol or ibuprofen for a period of time and it's not going away or not getting better, then it's always best to get it checked out by a doctor. And you hear so many stories of people getting sent home with just painkillers or getting fobbed off, and there's a lot of education going on surrounding this type of cancer. But an early diagnosis is really important, and I've been very lucky with getting that early diagnosis. There's a 2-month wait between my that first after hours doctor's appointment and getting the preliminary diagnosis, and then it was less than 2 months again following that, and I had my operation. I was already they're already making the plans for the chemotherapy regime, and I was lucky for all that to take place before the COVID-19 pandemic really hit. Moving on, I'll done a lot of talking there about the sort of type of cancer, so primary bone cancer, how I was diagnosed. Most of 2020 I spent undertaking chemotherapy and the treatment and following the surgery. There wasn't that much time for physio. I did have a lot of physio over video call. There's no one-to-one physio due to the COVID pandemic, but I'd been given exercises to do. I had my leg in an adjustable brace, so I couldn't. It was twice as complex, I guess, because I had the replacement knee as well. So I needed to let the muscle needed to heal, and the tendons needed to heal. Everything surrounding the knee replacement needed to heal, as well as the regaining strength in the rest of the leg. So I had a knee brace on. You see the same kind of knee brace. A lot of footballers have this. You can lock the flexion in. I wasn't able to go past 10 degrees flexion in the beginning. And then over time with exercising, this was increased gradually. But during my hospital stays and the chemotherapy, this was a slow process. And I didn't want to push it. I was very wary and afraid of doing any damage to the leg. I was walking with crutches, initially 2, and then I went to 1 crutch just on the right side. The hospital visits, I needed transport to get there because I couldn't, the flexion in the knee, I couldn't sit in a seat comfortably. I had to go in on a stretcher. So the visits to hospital every time were via patient transport, which was fine going from Northampton to Leicester, where I was having the chemotherapy, Leicester Royal Infirmary, but coming back was always a more tedious, more arduous process, arranging that transport, because I had to come from Northampton and pick me up. I won't go into that too much because the complexities about patient transport will probably bore most people. Fitness in general, so the physio, that was very important, but the chemotherapy as well meant that I was getting beaten down month by month with the chemotherapy. It's a very gradual process. You lose your hair. I lost my beard. But yeah, it's a very gradual process, and over time, your body really does take a beating. I lost over a stone in weight from the beginning, or before my surgery, to the end of my chemotherapy regime. And I've always had a good appetite, but I think it was fair to say that I was not eating enough. I was doing a lot of exercise before. I wasn't eating as much as I should be. And then when I had the surgery and I was laid up in hospital following the surgery for 2 weeks, and then when I got home after that, 6 weeks with my left leg in a straight brace, so moving around was difficult. I made an effort to get from my bedroom down the stairs every day, and I'd sit downstairs on the sofa. District nurses would come out, dress my wound, and all that kind of thing. Throughout that and the chemotherapy, physio was difficult. I wasn't realistically able to do as much physio as I wanted to build up the strength of the leg. So that all really came about at the end of 2020 when I finished the chemotherapy. I was able to start the physio and really get on with that well. And it took probably 3 or 4 months into 2021 when I was walking more, I was out walking more, and I got to the point where I could do a little bit of walking without using one of my crutches. The only crutch. I was down to using one at a point. The difficulty with that, I was eating more. I was able to get out and move more. I made a point of do as much walking as possible. Every Saturday, I would go out for a walk, and my wife would come with me, and we'd go out and we'd do a circuit. We'd do a 2-mile walk. No undulations, steps, slopes, all that kind of thing, really to build up the strength. And it got to the point where I was doing that enough, and I'd take my crutch as a safety blanket, and eventually I could walk without the crutch. But that was, walking without the crutch was a real milestone. I honestly thought I couldn't do it. I didn't think I had the strength in me. It started off by sitting on the edge of the sofa and standing up and doing that without a crutch or any assistance. And funny enough, like the physio did say, your leg is stronger than you think it is, and it's a mental block. Getting past that mental block where you think you can't do it, and that was really important. But I also knew that I shouldn't get too ahead of myself and rush into any more arduous exercise. So I did a lot of walking. And then I got a turbo trainer from TAC-X, Garmin company now, and that's really good, and I still do that. And I started on the turbo trainer with my old push bike, and that's what I did 3 times a week, and I still do that. And I started off gently, just doing a kilometre or so, and then worked my way up, and then got back doing fitness. I don't know if anyone knows 5BX. It's a Canadian Air Force old fitness regime. It's about 11 minutes a day. You do a lot of press-ups, sit-ups, planks, star jumps, all that kind of thing. I can't do star jumps now, but it's a lot of core exercises, and I do that every weekday. I do it every weekday. It's about 10 minutes, 10-15 minutes, and then also do the turbo trainer 3 days a week, and that's what I've been doing since my treatment, and just eating better, eating more protein, drinking more water, and building my body weight up. And I'm now heavier than I ever was before my surgery, my treatment, and I'm really focusing on that now. I wasn't eating enough previously, so I've made an effort to do better. I got married in 2021, which was something we were planning on doing before my diagnosis. So that was great. We got married, did a honeymoon in between lockdowns in Cornwall, and went on a proper honeymoon in 2022, which was nice. Went away to St. Lucia. It's the first big holiday, first Caribbean holiday, first long haul summer holiday, all in all, which was nice. And that was a good aftermath, if you like. It was a good thing to do. Shortly after that, I changed job as well. It was a time for new starts. I didn't have a great time after my return to work, after my treatment. Not a lot of people, no one really geared me up for the mental toll that year, that 2020 would have on me. And I was quite guilty throughout that year for not working or for not working that much. There's 2 weeks that I had in between hospital visits. I was still trying to do a little bit of work just to get paid to cover the mortgage bills. Which brings me to quite an important point. If you got this far in the video, thank you for watching. I do want to discuss this. This is something I want you to go away and look at really, really hard now. If you don't have life insurance with critical care cover, I was lucky to have it with my house mortgage. I bought my first home. I was lucky enough to buy my first home in 2014. And the requirements for that were life insurance cover, and part of this was a game changer, because I was able to use that critical care cover. Now, the reason I say go away and seriously consider this now is you'll be hard pressed to get any cover post diagnosis. Insurers don't like paying out. I was lucky to get assistance with this. I was insured with Aviva for that, with the mortgage, and they did pay. But seriously consider life insurance with critical care cover. Cancel your Sky bill. You don't need it. I didn't think I was going to get diagnosed with cancer. Not many people do. I was in cruise mode. I was going through my life thinking, hey, this is all good. We're going into 2020. It's going to be a great year. For many people, it wasn't. COVID happened as well. For me, I got diagnosed with cancer, and it was like a wrecking ball coming crashing home. And what I can say is that that cover helped out a lot. And please go away. Consider what you're paying, your outgoings are. I can tell you now that it won't be as important as getting that life insurance with that critical care cover. It's like home insurance. You know, you hope never to have to use it, but that one time that your house floods or there's a fire or something else, you know, you hope that it's never going to be used. But if you don't have it, you wish you did if something happened. And a lot of people watching this are probably renting. You think, I don't need, you know, I'm paying the rent. I can do that on a monthly basis. It's not, you know, nothing's tied to this. If something happens, you know, I can move it back with parents, or can move in with friends or family or something, or find a cheaper place to rent. Some alternative. But you know, a mortgage is a big thing if you have that, and if you don't have any cover to help out as a buffer, then yeah, that's problematic. So I really recommend that you check that out. Another thing that wasn't set up for really, I touched on that briefly about the sort of mental state, is getting some counselling. So I had probably about 6 or 7 sessions over about a month and a half. Midway through, it must have been 2021 or 2, possibly 22. It's all a bit blurry now. But I rushed my return to work. I rushed a lot of things. I should have had time off after my treatment, just to reset. I was angry and annoyed at myself for missing out on work, and I wanted to get back into work and back into routine and back into normality. And that was, you know, problematic. I rushed back into it. I got stressed. I ended up taking time off work from my previous job. I was burnt out, and I was very depressed for a time. I had a lot of survivor guilt, and yeah, I got counselling, and I really recommend, if anyone's going through the same thing, or anything else really, any hardship, get some counselling. You know, if you're not happy talking to friends or family, or you just want someone else to talk to, because you don't want to be a down on everyone, get some counselling and talk it out. You know, I had a lot of survivor guilt. I still do. You know, you ask yourself, why me? Why me? Some positives. Moving on. We sold up end of 23. We sold up a house in Northampton, and we moved to Norfolk. We've got a lovely house now in Norfolk. My parents moved here 2 years ago, and we sort of followed along. And I'm now doing a lot of exercise, a lot of work in the garden still. A lot of walks, and keeping fit as well. Finally, and apologies for the length of this video. I hope it's not bored you. Let's talk a little bit about IVF. So with chemotherapy, there comes a big risk that you become infertile. The good news is that before any of the chemotherapy treatment, I did freeze 5 vials of sperm at the Leicester Fertility Clinic. That sperm is stored there for 10 years. And we are going through IVF treatment currently. We've hit a few road bumps, but we are getting there. We're making progress. We have a plan in place. So that is ongoing, but that's another downside to cancer. Luckily, they do make that that clear before the chemotherapy, and they do give you options. So I'm very grateful. So thanks for taking the time to watch this video. I am planning on climbing Mount Snowdon in Wales for Bone Cancer Research Trust in June with my sister. It's a great charity. They do a lot of research, a lot of fundraising for osteosarcoma. They're spreading a lot of awareness, making a point of getting doctors aware of the symptoms, and just making sure that the early diagnosis happens. So I'll put the Just Giving link in the description. Please give what you can. It's a great charity, and yeah, Snowdon is something I've climbed a couple of times, and I'm feeling pretty positive about it. And I'll let you know the progress of that. Great. Thank you very much, and I'll speak to you soon. Bye-bye.